So we're going to start with time management. We need strategies and we all use strategies. Even as adults, we have time management strategies. So kids need to understand that. And so we think about once we get through that lizard brain mode and we're in that growth mindset, we can start to think about strategies. So why do kids especially have trouble with time management and shift into that lizard brain mode so often? Well, kids are not born understanding the passage of time. When you think about time, it is a very kind of ambiguous concept. And so, as kids, it's not something we think a lot about. We may not be able to effectively use time tools. Some of them are easier than others, but sometimes we need to learn some things in order to be able to use time tools. We need to understand what those numbers mean on that clock. We need to understand how some of these devices work. Even looking at a calendar might not make sense till we really learn a few things. We kids may rely too much on memory for knowing what to do. They might not, need to schedule or feel that they need to schedule something. They're just, I've got to do this. And they have it in there and they're really confident that they're going to remember and they're going to get it done. And then something else more exciting comes along and that thing gets lost. That task doesn't get done. And so it's just that mentality that I've got it, it's in there, I know what to do. Kids may not grasp the importance of deadlines and being on time. I'm going to do it. I just don't need to do it by that time. Why would I have to do it by that time? They don't understand maybe that deadlines are important. And so they see time management as an adulting skill. I'll learn that eventually. Those adults all know it, but I'll get there. And you know what? We don't often show kids our tools, our strategies that we're using. So, time management specifically is an area that's often invisible to kids. They don't really see us planning out our days to get all the things done that adults need to do. They just see the end results. And so they don't really understand that this is something that they're going to need to learn to do. So when we step back and we look at school and home, there are some differences between what time management looks like. So when we think about time demands at school or at home, we'll start with home, morning routines, right? That can be a time management nightmare, or it can be really nice and smooth in someone's dream world, right? Being on time for a bus or some kind of transportation, homework and projects, doing, how to get all of that stuff done after school, balancing vacations and breaks, family commitments, activities, schoolwork, and maybe even a part-time job as the students get older. So we have some time demands that require that balancing. And then of course our evening routines. So we have those types of time management demands at home. And then at school, we have, we've got to be to school on time, or maybe, even if it's homeschool, we got to start, we got to do what we have to do. Classwork, group work, we may have to do, if we have to work with someone, we have to think about how to manage the time while we're doing something like that. If there are tests that are timed or certain types of assignments that are timed, if we're changing classes or even just changing between activities, even if they're fun things, gym to lunch, right? It's still a transition and there are time demands there. Long-term projects, those require planning and definitely time demands on us, and then being on time to leave, making sure we catch that bus home if we're going to school, or making sure we finish things when we're supposed to finish things in order to end the day. And then we have supports that are different, right? When we're at home, we have, maybe clocks in our rooms. We might have calendars, alarm clocks, kitchen timers. We have all these things we use, and adult announcements. So, kids are playing and it's, an announcement, the adults keeping time. It's time to do this, time for dinner, right? We hear those things. Time supports and tools at school. We have classroom wall clocks. We have bulletin board calendars. We have, daily schedules maybe, or activity timers where we might even say, hey, you have, half an hour to do this activity, and we set a little timer. Again, the main focus being the adult timekeeping and the adult announcements. So when we look at the similarities, we do have tools in both settings. They may be slightly different, but there are clocks and timers and calendars and things like that. There is a mixture of short-term and long-term time demands. There are things that we have to, regulate right in the moment and be done by a certain time or transition at a certain time. And then there are maybe some longer-term things where we need to do some planning. And there is that reliance on adult announcements and timekeeping. So some similarities, even though the context may be different. So how can time management cause kids to get frenzied? Well, kids get involved in what they are doing, especially if they like it. Something that they like to do, all of a sudden they're invested, they're in it. They're not thinking about how much time is passing. They may be then shocked when adults say something like, kids, time to go to the doctor. Kids, time to eat dinner. Something like that. Kids, time for gym or lunch or whatever it is. They may have difficulty then transitioning from what they're doing to a new activity, which of course requires cognitive flexibility and all of those other nice executive function areas. And so what that does is it can cause that feeling of frustration or overwhelmingness. They're not in control of time, and so it may be overwhelming. It may make them feel frustrated, especially if they've been asked to do something and they haven't regulated time to finish it, and then there's some kind of, adult disappointment or whatever they feel from the adult. So time management can cause kids to get frenzied because they aren't necessarily paying attention to time as much as an adult may in a similar situation. So we do have this awareness of time issue, and some children and even adults have significant difficulties with that awareness of time. And why is it difficult? Because sensing time is difficult. We need to know how much time is passing, and we also need to know how long things will take. So we have to have kind of a bank of things that we remember so that we can kind of go back there and say, I think this is going to take this long this time, because of something I know, something I've experienced before, or some other reason. Someone's telling us how long it will take. We need some tools, we need some strategies, and, sometimes people don't have those. So when people struggle with time awareness, they may even just resist that whole thing. Like, that's not for me. Somebody else can keep track of time and I'll just do what I'm supposed to do. And it's still difficult when you don't understand how much time is passing, even if someone tells you, do it by this time. It's very difficult. When we have our sense of time not matching the actual measured time, we get what we call time troubles. We have things that feel wrong. It makes us feel frenzied when we think we have a lot of time and we don't, or when we think we don't have a lot of time, we end up with a lot of extra time that we didn't understand. Then we are feeling uncomfortable, right? When we're doing something we really like to do, right? If you think about something that you really like to do, time flies. It goes faster. We don't understand that time is passing because we're so involved in that task, that activity, that we're having so much fun and time is flying. So that sense of time is actually faster. But when we're doing something that we don't enjoy as much, that's when time can drag on. And so we start to feel like, oh my goodness, I feel like I've been doing this forever. And so it also changes or tricks us. And so we don't understand what the actual measured time is and how much time has passed. So basically, if we're trying to complete a task and one of those things is happening and our sense of time doesn't match our measured time, then we end up with spare time, which in some cases is a good thing, but a lot of times we could be using maybe that time for something else that we needed to use it for. Or more probably problematic is that we feel rushed. We feel like we can't finish what we need to finish by the time that we need to finish it. And so that creates a real sense of overwhelmingness and frustration. So we have those emotions and then it's very difficult to think about strategies. How do we support the development of independence and strengthen the wizard brain in our kids, right? We have to help them develop a sense of time. So yes, the tools are important, but we also help that we need to help them develop that understanding of time. We need to teach time management strategies explicitly. These aren't something they're just going to figure out maybe. And so we need to help them, we need to teach them, we need to model the strategies and then give them support as they try to use them. We need to understand where each child is on their awareness of time, understanding that maybe it's a little bit more difficult for this particular child. How well do they use the tools and strategies? Where are they on their kind of practice of using those tools and those strategies? And how comfortable are they with transitions, changing activities, that cognitive flexibility piece. And then we have to, scaffold that use of time tools and strategies, really gently nudging them toward autonomy, toward independence, so they can use these tools and strategies without adult support. Knowing when they can use a particular strategy, in which context, how they can change it to make it work for them based on their own knowledge of strengths and challenges.